Hello! Thank you for joining us on this televised version of our Tackling Food Waste with a Plan, a proactive conversation about how we can start to throw away less food at home and reduce our carbon footprint. My name is Lauren Scott. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator at Briar Patch Food Co-op, and I'm going to be talking about the relationship between food waste and climate change. Then we're going to hear from Wendy Van Wagner, public health educator and cooking school founder. Wendy's going to share with us how you can use meal planning at home to reduce your food waste. After Wendy, we'll hear from Carly Davenport. Carly Davenport's a certified health coach and a low waste advocate. Carly will share how you can shop the bulk aisle to reduce your food waste. I'd like to thank Nevada County Media for including us in this series on climate change. Tackling food waste is something that each of us can do to ease our personal contributions to a warmer planet. It's a solution that is equitable and that each of us can partake in. That's why Briar Patch is dedicating all of 2020 to addressing food waste through our Food Too Good to Waste campaign. We're taking this opportunity to educate ourselves and offering resources to the community. You can find all of these resources on our website, briarpatch.coop/food too good to waste. Each month, we'll take on a new topic for how to prevent, recover, and recycle food waste. Topics include planning, the benefits of buying in bulk, proper food storage, composting, donating food, and talking to kids about food waste. So I hope the irony is not lost in that a representative of Briar Patch, a grocer, is asking, or rather instructing you to come to the co-op with a plan and to curb your frivolous shopping. We live in a world that tells us to consume. Grocery stores tell us to consume. I'm particularly grateful that Briar Patch, as a grocer, is willing to have these conversations around food waste and what we can do to reduce it. All right, so let's talk about climate change and food waste. Imagine walking out of Briar Patch with 5 bags, and on your way to your car, you drop 2 in the dumpster. Collectively, that is what Americans do. 40% of all the food we produce goes uneaten, and more food is wasted at home by eaters than grocery stores and retailers combine. Annually, Americans send 52 million tons of food to the landfill. That takes up 21% of landfill space. That's more than any other item. Food doesn't just take up space when it's thrown in the landfills, it also produces methane, a greenhouse gas with 25 times the warming potential of carbon dioxide. Consider all the natural resources embodied in food. When we waste food, we're wasting the resources used to grow, package, ship, and store it. Food waste consumes 21% of our fresh water, 19% of fertilizer we use, and 18% of all of our cropland. There are emissions all along the supply chain. Take an apple. An apple takes 18.5 gallons of water to grow. We eat apples all year long. Most of them sit for months in refrigerated storage and are shipped from out of state. In a trash bag, in a landfill, it can take more than 6 months for an apple core to break down. Some of you may be familiar with Project Drawdown, a book that came out in 2017 slated to be the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming. While the book came out in 2017, more recently, just this past month, they came out with their 2020 Drawdown review. So I'd like to share with you a little bit from the 2020 Drawdown review and encourage you to check it out if you feel so inspired. Here are just a few of their 10 key insights on climate change, in no particular order. Start with number 3. Beyond addressing greenhouse gases, climate solutions can have co-benefits that contribute to a better, more equitable world. I think this is particularly relevant for reducing and redirecting food waste. When we talk about co-benefits of food waste, I'm talking about redirecting food that is edible to people who are food insecure. About 1 in 7 Americans are food insecure. Number 7, some of the most powerful climate solutions receive comparably little attention, reminding us to widen our lens. Many climate solutions focus on reducing and eliminating fossil fuel emissions, but others are needed too. Among the top solutions assessed by Project Drawdown, we find some eye-openers. Food waste reduction and plant-rich diets, which together curb demand deforestation, and associated emissions. Number 9, footholds of agency exist at every level for all individuals and institutions to participate in advancing climate solutions. Number 2, climate solutions are interconnected as a system, and we need all of them. And number 10, immense commitment, collaboration, and ingenuity will be necessary to depart the perilous path we are on and realize the path that's possible. But the mission is clear: make possibility reality. So Wendy will be sharing how to use planning at home to reduce food waste, and I wanted to share with you some of the ways that Briar Patch uses planning to reduce food waste in our supply chain, particularly in the produce department. Our produce team works directly with over 40 producers to plan out a coordinated schedule of produce items and quantities. The schedule is shared with growers 6 months in advance, allowing them to plan accordingly for the growing season. This helps to reduce food waste at the source in a few ways. It takes the guesswork out of what the co-op may purchase from producers. They know how much we need and when we're going to need it. It also allows growers to identify new opportunities. Briar Patch may already have an established relationship with a lettuce producer, and so an emerging farmer can see that on our schedule and plan to grow another item. Let's say arugula. The planning spreadsheet developed by the produce team is truly impressive. While we can't always plan for what shoppers are going to buy, managers across the store use detailed data to plan purchases, keep the shelves stocked, and not overbuy items that will end up going to waste. Detailed data includes looking at seasonal trends, holidays, weathers, and etc., things like that. So I hope you find the tips we give this evening on how to reduce food waste through planning useful in your life. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren, for that wonderful introduction, which really got us thinking about food waste on a global level. Coming from a food service background, I've always been really conscientious in my business practices about food waste and healthy resource management, but it all came from a strictly bottom line place. It wasn't until in my personal life I realized that there were a lot of benefits to meal planning that I became a proselytizer for this practice. I used to think it was a really rigid, boring practice that took the creativity and flow out of cooking and preparing meals. Going to the grocery store every day used to be something that was actually enjoyable and fun to me. But when I had 2 children, I realized I would do absolutely anything to avoid going to the grocery store more than the bare minimum amount of time. The chaos of taking the kids to the grocery store, also just the excess spending that would happen with repeated grocery store trips, and also not really having a plan for what our meals were going to be for the rest of the week were all things that got me really motivated to figure out how to do this meal planning that everyone talks about. So I have a slide here, and hopefully a lot of you can relate to this. This is that idealized version of ourselves that goes to the grocery store or goes to the farmer's market. Maybe we have a beautiful basket and we're picking things that just look good and filling our cart or our basket and thinking like, this is me this week. I am going to be eating all these fresh fruits and vegetables. I'm not really sure how, but I just know that I'll be eating them. And then something happens. On our next slide, we get home from the grocery store and you open your fridge and you realize, oh my gosh, there's already too much food in the fridge. I need to fit these new groceries in. How am I going to do that? And you know, when you take stock of your fridge, it's packed full of food. And in the next slide, a lot of you can probably relate to that. So all of a sudden, in a bit of a panic, you're taking food out of the grocery store from last week that was last week's streams. Now you're packing it with this week's streams of all this fresh food. But it doesn't really change the fact that you are repeating the cycle over and over again. This next slide is a tool that you can put in your refrigerator and have a shelf dedicated to foods that you need to eat first before you go into any foods that you purchase or add to your repertoire for the week. And that's just one step to get you to start thinking about how to go through your food resources before purchasing more. In this next slide, this beautiful refrigerator is one of those other idealized versions of what we could be, how we can be living. But as you can see, everything is displayed in a really attractive way. It's not packed full of food that maybe we don't even remember what it is anymore. And all of these things are ways that we can encourage ourselves to go through the food that we have first before we're purchasing more food. So I'm going to walk you through 6 tips for meal planning. What you really want to do is you want to plan ahead, but you don't want to plan too far ahead. So you want to get enough food for several days or even up to 1 week. But it's been shown that when people try and plan for like 2 weeks or a month ahead with meal planning, there still tends to be some waste because inevitably most people are going to the store to re-up on certain supplies. So you really want to think in advance, but you don't want to think like, okay, I'm planning my meals for a year. You want to think realistically. Before you go to the grocery store, you want to shop your cupboards. You want to shop your pantry. You want to shop your freezer and your refrigerator. Really take stock about what is it that you have on hand? What meals could you make with the staples that you have? What foods need to be used first? What produce could be turned into a delicious soup before you go and restock up on everything? And that's a great way to get an idea of what you actually need to buy before going and having your, your dream farmer's market shopping trip. So really take stock of what you have on hand. Also, planning your menu around your activities for the week is a great way to not get yourself in a pickle where, like, okay, you have a work meeting and then picking your kids up at soccer practice. Are you really going to be roasting a chicken that night? Probably not. So on a night like that, it would actually benefit you to plan something more simple or even have a leftover night built into your weekly schedule. Which brings me to number 4, which is to plan a leftover night. So on a night when you had a little bit more time to create a beautiful meal, maybe a big soup or something that took a little bit more time in the kitchen, make extra so that you have something built in for a night when you need something really easy. And then also the most important tip is to make a list and stick to it. I can't emphasize that enough. Going to the grocery store with just a vague idea of what you want to eat or what looks good is the number one way that you will waste food. So when you go with a list and you decide, I'm going to stick to this, I'm going to avoid all of the amazing impulse opportunities that are around you, that's how you're really going to buy the things that you need and avoid impulse buys, which grocery stores are actually designed to get us to succumb to. And on a personal note, sometimes when I make a grocery list, I allow myself to have 1 or 2 impulse buy opportunities so I don't feel like I'm depriving myself from anything fun. But I also realize that if I go beyond 1 or 2, then I'm like kind of derailing from my list entirely. I call those fun purchases. And then finally, place your menu and your meal plan on the fridge. That's a great way for your family to see everything, and it's a daily reminder to you that there actually is a plan in place, and if you have a few extra moments at some point in the day, maybe you can do a little bit of prep before dinner time that just kind of builds up to making your mealtime stress-free and actually an enjoyable process for your family. So I have a few other tools available, and one is a meal planner and a shopping list. And this is also available on ivaluefood.org. And it really shows, on one side, it gives you what your meal plan is, and then on the other side, it's your corresponding shopping list. And it encourages you to put down quantities and also take stock of if some of the things that you're planning your meal with are things that you already have on hand. I also have a tool for continuously taking inventory of your pantry, your fridge, and your freezer. And you'll see on this handout, there's an opportunity to write quantities, when you purchase them, and what you have on hand, so that as you're doing your weekly menu planning, you don't necessarily have to go through all of your physical pantries and fridges. You can actually just look at your cheat sheet and see when you purchased something and what quantity you have left. So to wrap up, the top 3 things I would recommend for meal planning and reducing your food waste at home is to check what you have on hand before you start meal planning. And then plan your meals around activities and what your week looks like so that you're actually having time to prepare the things that you set out to prepare. And then finally, place your menu on your refrigerator so you're seeing it on a daily basis. Meal planning can be really fun, and it actually can be a creative exercise in resource management. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of flipping the lens to be able to see it that way. So I hope you have fun with your new meal planning tools.
So what's so great about our bulk department? Briar Patch has such a wide variety of products to choose from, including oats, rice, flour, cereal, sugar. We have over 200 different varieties of herbs and spices to choose from. You're going to be using less packaging, and you can also choose how much of a product that you want to buy. So you don't end up throwing away product like that big giant bag of xanthan gum that you bought for that random recipe that you'll probably never make again. So my name is Carly, and I'm the Briar Patch merchandiser, and I've been working in the natural food and supplement industry for over 5 years. And I've also recently decided to become a certified holistic health coach. Aside from being a health coach and the merchandiser, I am a low-waste enthusiast. The more I saw pictures of all the garbage floating in our oceans and our resources being depleted to meet the demands, I knew that we had to make a change. As you may have seen in last fall's Vine article, I decided to go zero waste for 1 week. I still continue to live my life as low waste as I can, and I'm so thankful that we have so many resources in town for low waste options. And also so lucky and thankful that we have the Briar Patch and the bulk department at the Briar Patch. So I want to share with you how easy and fun it is to shop at the bulk department at Briar Patch. My first tip is to plan. This is so important. If you come without a plan, it can be kind of messy. So first, I will make a list on my phone of all of the items that I need for the shopping trip, and then I will count out how many jars I'm going to need for the trip, and I always end up throwing a few extras in there because you never know what you're going to find. We also do have reusable bags, paper bags, and jars for your convenience if you don't end up bringing your own. So for example, if you're going to fill your jar up with cashews that I brought here, first off, if you bring a jar from home, please make sure that it is a clean jar. So first, what you're going to do with your jar, you're going to tare the jar. And you're probably like, what the heck is a tare weight? So tare weight is the weight of the jar, excluding the product that you're going to put inside, so that when you weigh it out in the end, you're not being charged for the weight of this, just the product. So we're going to put it on the scale here, and you'll see that it says 0.38 pounds. So there's these little stickers here at the bulk department that you can write this weight down and put it on your jar. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And along with the tare weight, you're going to want to put the PLU of the product on your jar as well, so they can ring you up accurately at the front. And you'll see it says PLU followed by a number after it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down as well. So then once you've put your sticker on your jar and you've tared it and you're all ready to go, then you can go ahead and fill your jar up with the product here. And then you can go to the front and your checkout, and the cashiers will know how to ring you up and weigh the product as well. And you're all set to go. So that's pretty fun, easy, and simple. So for the week of Earth Day, April 20th through 26th, Briar Patch is going to be hosting a bulk sale. All bulk items are going to be 10% off, excluding coffee, tea, and herbs. And I think that's a really good time to come check out our bulk department and stock up of any of your essential needs. Thank you.
one of our goals as an agency is to bring that awareness that in our community there's still needs out there for firewood, especially in the senior population, and that as together as a community, we can meet that need.
Each year gets a little harder and a little harder, but just seeing this, I feel like one of the lucky ones.
Fighting wildfires is dangerous work. Firefighters and pilots like us put our lives on the line every day to protect Californians. But there's a new danger that we're seeing more and more.
Hobby drones flying in a fire area pose a serious threat to us, our firefighters, and the public below.
A collision with a hobby drone could cause damage, injury, or even death.
We need your help. Don't make our jobs even more dangerous.
Remember, if you fly, we can't. Learn more from CAL FIRE at fire.ca.gov.
Hi.
If there were 20 building departments out there, I would want us to be the #1 for customer service.
The Over-the-Counter Wednesday program is an opportunity for you to schedule a 1-hour-long appointment to bring in a set of plans and be able to have them reviewed, if possible approved over the counter, get your permits issued, get you started on your project in a very short period of time.
So this site that we're on right now was 100% over the counter, same day issuance of the permit.
We get everyone. We get draftsmen, we get homeowners, and we get general contractors.
Come in about 20 times a year to pull a permit, and so this program is ideal for me.
It's really simplistic. I think that's the beauty of it. Whenever you want to build a house, you want to build a deck, you want to remodel your kitchen, you come into our office and in one day they submit plans, they get the plan review done by multiple departments sometimes depending on the project, and they get the permit in the same day.
Previously, a project would have a 2-week time frame for a first review. There'd be a written list of corrections, and then there would be a second review and potentially a third, so call it 3 to 4 weeks.
We didn't have any appointments. You just showed up.
Construction is very hard with scheduling. When there's a gray 6 to 10 week hold up for plan review and maybe resubmittal, you really don't have a start date. For clients, that's tough.
The over-the-counter plan review program cuts down that 2 to 4 week process down to a day or two process. So we schedule that date with whatever department needs to look at it. We schedule all those people out to be available at 10 o'clock or whatever their appointment date is to look at it all at the same time.
Our role is to look at the applicable zoning district. We'll look at setbacks, lot coverage. We may do some research on the origin of the lot.
We use all the existing resources we have. We just sort of condense it down. The first time a homeowner goes through it or a contractor goes through it, they've dealt with us before, they're like, well, what do you mean I can get my permit now? It's almost like they're in the twilight zone, sort of thing, because that's not what they're used to.
They love it. They love being able to schedule an appointment, for one. Fits their schedule, they can get their appointment the day they want it and get the plan check done that day and walk away with a permit. They can start building their deck or their pool or whatever.
This process is a new avenue for people to obtain permits in an easier fashion.
It takes one more holdup out of the equation.
It's great for me. It's enjoyable to just meet with someone.
I think it's great.
It's a good feeling to get people what they want. It is. It's nice.
I would like to see it maybe Wednesday, Thursday.
The coronaviruses are a family of viruses that we're familiar with. We know that they cause respiratory tract infection, and most people are going to be familiar with them from causing the common cold. That's a coronavirus, but they can cause more serious infections like SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome. We remember that from years ago. And then there's this new coronavirus, novel coronavirus, that currently originated in China. The original cases, it appeared that it was only transmitted maybe from animals to humans, but now it's clear that there's person-to-person transmission. And we've seen cases in healthcare workers who have not been with any animal contact. So we know the healthcare workers are getting it from taking care of patients. So we know there's person-to-person transmission. It starts off just like any other cold, so fever, cough, runny nose, overall feeling bad, and then it can progress and cause more severe illness, including pneumonia, and that can be fatal. The public health authorities have developed tests for this, and so anybody who is at risk for this present would be related to travelers or contacts of travelers to areas where we know that this is occurring. We encourage people their doctors, their healthcare providers, to report this to public health and get testing if indicated. Influenza is completely unrelated to coronavirus, so getting immunized against influenza will only protect you against influenza. There's no vaccine against coronavirus at the present time, and there's no specific therapy for the coronaviruses at the present time. Right now, all the therapy is supportive, meaning that if somebody has pneumonia, for example, then they might need extra oxygen or they might need to be on a ventilator, but no specific antiviral therapy. The only way people can protect themselves is to try not to be around sick people and to use respiratory etiquette. So people who are sick should be coughing into their arms. They should be washing their hands frequently. If you're sick, you should stay at home. If you're around sick people, try to get away from them. I know that's not always feasible. And then hand washing is always appropriate with soap and water or with the alcohol-based hand gels.
Did you know that embers from a wildfire can fly over 1 mile and can smolder for days before starting a secondary fire? It only takes one ember to bring wildfire to your home. Learn about defensible space and how you can make your home more fire resistant at readyforwildfire.com.